So welcome everyone to this edition of CSA Ideas Lab. We will be discussing customizable CSA shares and best practices for adapting this on CSA farms. I'm excited to join you today with a great lineup of speakers. I want to introduce myself first. My name is Katie Harvey. I'm a CSA program coordinator with the Organic Association of Kentucky. We manage a workplace CSA program called the Kentucky Farm Share Coalition. And I have had the privilege to connect with this national network, the CSA Innovation Network, since 2019. So I want to share a few tech tips before we get started. And we're going to ask that everyone remain on mute and use the chat function for questions. We will have time at the Q&A at the end for Q&A. So just drop those questions in as they come and we'll address those at the end. If you would like to use the closed captioning feature, you can turn that on by selecting the live transcript button at the bottom of your screen. It'll have that CC for closed captioning. We are recording this session, so it will be posted on the CSA Innovation Network website after the event. And just if you are just coming in, we want to warm up the chat and encourage everyone to introduce themselves in the chat box at the bottom of your screen. You can share your name, the farm or organization that you're with, and where you're located. So I'm going to kick things off. This is an overview of the event. We're going to introduce the CSA Innovation Network. We'll have Heather Coffey from Fiddlehead Farm kick us off with the customizable CSA shares. We'll have Ray Strobel from Barr Farms after, and then Stephanie Jager from Local Food Marketplace. We'll have that facilitated Q&A and then a wrap up at the end. I just want to kick things off with a quick introduction about the CSA Innovation Network. This is a national organization that generates and facilitates idea sharing between CSA farmers and technical assistance providers across the US. We recognize that many of us work in silos, the pun intended there, or relative isolation, and want to connect those across the country doing similar work in the CSA space by providing resources through this Ideas Lab series, through working groups and the robust resource library, as well as some other resources we have. So we just got started with this new series of coffee chats. So this is a more informal discussion on CSA topics. So we will have our second one this June on CSAs as an employee wellness benefit, and another in the future on leveraging state and federal funding for CSA shares. So keep an eye out for both of those opportunities. And I'm going to kick it off first with Heather Coffey from Fiddlehead Farm. She's going to get us started.
Hello, everyone. So I'm up in in Ontario, a little island in Lake Ontario, pretty much, which is great for growing vegetables. But one of the challenges we had was selling them. So early days, we started with a very small operation and we've grown over time. I wanted to show you a few pictures of some of our infrastructure just to give you a sense of our scale and to be able to connect with you about where we're at and where we've come from. So we have a seedling house that is 100 foot. This is our in-ground greenhouses that are 100 foot each. We have 2 of those. We have numerous outbuildings as well. We don't technically have a winter processing facility. So you get skids of vegetables running between buildings at minus whatever, but we make it work. We started with that tiny little fridge in the middle. And then over the years, we've added other buildings. We grow a full range of vegetables to feed 300 families a year. And it's about 50 different types of vegetables, multiple varieties of most of those. In wintertime, we switched to larger boxes. So those are going out once a month because members can store the vegetables at their own homes. And it helps give us a little bit of quiet time in the winter, which we discovered we really need. When pandemic hit, we were very fortunate to already have an online web sales platform for our CSA, and that really made the difference for us making it through the pandemic. We were able to shift our sales from our farmers markets to the CSA through the online portal. Doesn't mean that our fields aren't full of weeds all the time. They often are. We're human and we're a small team, but we make it work. We use a lot of landscape fabric as well to help cut down on the weeding. And we have a great team with us. We've been around 5 or 6 full-time people for like 8 to 10 years now. So as you're seeing the rest of this, keep in mind that our labor has been more or less stable over the years. One of the big changes that happened with pandemic was we all of a sudden had 400 CSA bags to pack all at once. And so we did a call out to some of our members and recruited. We have 3 to 5 veggie volunteers that come one afternoon a week and help us fill bags. And it makes that process work so much better. They love it. We laugh. It's now my favorite day of the week. And I wouldn't go on without it. So in a nutshell, that's our farm. I've more or less just said all of that. We really wanted to make sure that the farm worked for us. We grew up in cities, so we're not from a farming background, but we wanted to make local food possible. And we really had some fairly serious, we have to make the farm work. That's our whole goal, is make it work. Families need to eat year round and we need to work year round. So we've over time built our CSA to meet that need. We want to farm smarter, not harder. We want to invest in the tools that make the work easier and more efficient. We want to live year round. Burning out each season is not fun. I mean, you probably all tried it out. Nobody wants it, right? So we try to balance out our workload year round. And at the end of the day, the vegetables have to pay the bills. It's not like we started with money from somewhere. We're making it work. So in our early years, from 2012 to 2017, we were mostly a summer CSA. Our winter storage started in 2014 when I came on the farm full year. We had 20 to 50 CSA members, and it was only about 30% of our sales. So it was a very small portion of our farm. We ran 5 to 6 markets, which did not feel like a good opportunity for growth because there's only so many markets you can run around to in a day, so many market staffers. We found that you can sell the vegetables much better if it's yourself, but I wasn't going to be at farmer's market 5 days a week because I just can't do that. My patience doesn't last. So gradually over time, we have shifted from that. Next. So we were considering a web portal. We knew that the CSA was really where we wanted to grow, but we weren't seeing any growth. And we knew that there were issues with the CSA because we'd been running a traditional CSA where you had to pay up front. There was a paper registration form you had to mail in. There were a number of barriers to members joining us. And we really wanted to address some of those. We wanted to offer different size shares. We wanted them to be able to add in extra vegetables. Right now, I put in the availabilities, and then the portal outputs a harvest sheet and pack labels, which is simple from an administration perspective. The system also automates the order emails, confirmations, pickup reminders, and payments. Next. But the biggest thing we were excited about for web portal was that members can do it themselves. They can register, they can put their own holidays in, they can cancel last minute, they can customize, they can change their location. All of those are so many more emails off my list when I'd prefer being in the fields because I'm here to farm in the fields. It's not an office job. And one of the big exciting things was a continuous subscription for us because we gradually over time had been leaning more and more towards that because renewal is a nightmare. It's a whole process. It costs a lot of time and effort and energy and stress for the members. So today's CSA looks a bit different from when we started. We have a pre-filled box with a small or regular size. Members can edit it over the weekend. Then we harvest on Monday, pack on Tuesday, pick up is Wednesday or Thursday, depending where the location is. Individual orders are also accepted through the portal. So some people who don't want to commit to a subscription can still put in an order one individual week. At first, we were nervous about offering that as an option, thinking that we would lose our members. Totally not an issue. Our members love having the subscription. And for the few people that want to place an individual order, I feel like it's just a way to take down the barrier because it can be intimidating to subscribe to something, whereas they can just put in an individual order to try it out. And chances are they're going to switch over to subscription soon. We have a pay-as-you-go system now, so people only pay for what they eat. That was another big thing we worked towards. We are year-round, weekly in the summer, monthly in the winter, every other week in the spring, which is a little bit smaller in the spring. And we are 100% grown by us and only vegetables. We've experimented with various different things over the years. We brought in products from other farmers that complement the vegetables, and we didn't find that that was a good fit for us. Members just weren't taking up on it. They wanted to go buy it from the other farm. It's like, fine, I'll make my work less complicated and just focus on our veggies. I can do that. So comparing our early years to now, we do offer a winter and spring CSA now. So we've fleshed out the full year. We have gone from 20 to 50 members up to 150 to 400 members. That's a pretty serious jump. It's pretty big. And our biggest barrier to that was how to sell the vegetables before. And with a web portal, we've been able to effortlessly sell those vegetables. And as far as me being in the field and that whole mission of being in the field to grow vegetables, the biggest barrier to me doing that was being able to sell them. So that's where the web portal came in. We've been able to drop all but one of our farmers markets, and we've kept it mostly because I'm on my route anyways, doing my CSA drops. So it's not a lot of extra effort to stop at the one market. But we could drop it. We just have kept it for now. And our staff has been relatively stable over this whole time, which I think is also really interesting. Scaling up this much has not meant hiring 1 million more people, in part because we're trying to grow more efficiently and trying to streamline everything. But throwing people at it has never been our version of success. I thought it was important to share a few quick numbers with you, because numbers say a lot. I wanted to put that orange bar on there because pandemic affected everybody. Our CSA sales, everybody was just panic signing up. And we knew that that was a hump that was going to come down because CSA isn't the perfect fit for everybody. But we're really thrilled to see that even though we did jump a lot for the pandemic, we haven't lost. We haven't gone back to our pre-pandemic level because we've kept all of those members. And I will also note that in 2022, we also changed web portals. So we went from one portal to another, which would instinctively have an impact. We also volunteered to be guinea pigs on the new portal. So in exchange for helping them through some learning curves and development bumps, we got to help shape the portal, which was amazing as an opportunity. But one of the decisions we made was that we wanted to help shape the portal and be a part of it, but we were going to suspend our marketing efforts and promotions because we weren't sure where it was all going to be. We wanted to get more comfortable with it. We were like, let's try it with our current members and we'll go from there. So that jump is largely because we just stopped promotions. And we're really looking forward to bringing it right back up again this year. And I'm not intimidated about that at all. Next. So what members see on a weekly basis, they get an email that tells them what's in their pre-filled box. They can click to jump into the portal to edit. This is their main shopping cart view. So they can see what's in their order, where it's being delivered, the pickup location details as well, which I've blocked out here. Next. And then they also see a storefront. So they get a picture of every item and they can click to add something new into their box. There's a little shopping cart logo up in the corner there, which shows them again their cart, and they can see what they're getting. When they get to their pickup location, they will either have bags with a label on each bag with their name on it, or a box with the label on the lid, which are the two different options we use so far to distribute the vegetables. So it's pretty simple and straightforward from the customer's perspective, and I like that. From a practical detail perspective, setting up a web portal takes time. It's not something to it's not a walk in the park. It takes time. It takes getting your head around. Every portal is slightly different. I would say it takes about a month of fairly dedicated time with some ongoing maintenance. And that's just reality of a portal. You need pictures of every product. That was one of our hurdles at the beginning. But as you build up that collection of pictures, you don't need to take them again every year. They're just there. So, in a standard delivery week, I might be uploading a picture or two of something that either, is growing slightly different this year or looks different or is a new product or a new pack size. But it's really not a big burden as you go through the year. You have to be able to print labels. So we bought a Dymo printer and they're heat sensitive labels, so there's no ink. I actually order my labels on Amazon because there isn't really anyone around that has them in stock. So I just order a year's worth of labels. They show up and I don't have to worry about it. You need space to set up a packing line. And I have pictures of this in a second, but you need somewhere to pack all these vegetables. So we use our market tents and our tables because our wash station is too small. Let's jump to the picture. So on one end of the pack line, we have in our wash station, we have a little U-shape set up with all the different things people can order. At the beginning of the line, you can see a little basket there, which has all of our labels in it. So people pick up a label, rip it off, fill a crate with whatever vegetables in the right order as you go around the pack line, and then they get put on the table right by me. Looking down the pack line from the other side of me is some of our volunteers packing up. Every crate has to get a second check. So we look down that label again to make sure that if there were 2 of something ordered, the person got 2 in their box. They didn't mix up the Arizona with the russet potatoes, things like that. So we always have a double check person, which is what Becky is doing here to help reduce errors on the pack line. And then we have usually 2 or 3 people putting the vegetables into bags because you can't check it if they're all in a bag because you can't see them. What we've found is if you want to do the Rubbermaid approach, you can cut your pack time down significantly. So we are looking forward to doing that, but buying that many Rubbermaids to have 1 per person is a big hurdle to us, so we haven't done it yet. But when we have the single boxes going down the line where you can see everything at once, so it's a big enough box. Right now we're looking about 8 to 10 people a week on the pack line, and we're able to pack about 100 bags an hour. If you wanted to do it all in boxes, I would say you could probably get closer to 50 or 75. I mean, the other direction. 150 an hour, probably, if I had to guess, because it's literally 2 people that were just packing bags that get sent back to the pack line to just fill them. So yeah, you need 2 people less or 3 people less, depending how you do it. Our veggie volunteers, I'm just going to go backwards a second just to wrap up that one. So the packing bottleneck was one of the biggest practical details that we were intimidated about for scaling up. And because we have 3 to 5 veggie volunteers, we send them home with their vegetables every week on the house in exchange for their help, their regular volunteers, and they just love coming out to help, which is great. And I like giving them vegetables because I don't have work for that many people all week. It's just a couple hours a week and it's great. It works wonderfully. We can go next. This is a little video which I thought would be helpful just for you guys to see. This is actually the end of our summer CSA, but in the wintertime, we set up in our 100-foot greenhouse for seedlings because that way we have enough space to set everything up. And in the wintertime, it's often below 0, whereas in the greenhouse, it gets heated up above 0. So the vegetables don't freeze as we're packing them. We also have a heater in that greenhouse in an emergency, but we very seldom have to use it. So the veggies go down the line, somebody puts them all in, that's me on the double check station. And then again, we have somebody filling the bags at the end. We label our bins at the end so that we know where they're going and which shares are inside it. And we do a double check at the end for the number of bags going to every location because we don't want to make any mistakes with that. So that's Stephanie putting the little labels on the bins. And then Irene is loading them up onto skids to go into the fridge, as well as doing that check for how many shares per bag. Next. There we go. So, I mean, how do you value a portal? To some extent, I can't really say, but we've seen incredible growth in our CSA and the business is really starting to work for us. We've got lots of really happy customers. In 2021, we really had to think hard. Our portal was taking a bigger cut of expenses than a full-time staffer. And to me, that didn't sit well at all. As we had grown, the portal was charging a percentage of our sales, and that number was getting uncomfortable. Because our staff work out in the fields, I would love to give them all a raise. It's all really hard work. And I had trouble valuing the portal at more than a full-time staffer if I could sit at my desk and do it, you know, and not have to do the rest of my work. Like, that sounds awesome. Anyway, so we started looking around trying to figure out what other options might be. We also started having some tech support issues with our first portal. The pickup locations were no longer supported, and we were seeing tech support just didn't care about us anymore. And it was just like, well, that's not the way this works. We need help when we need help. Manually managing about 300 members was just not an option. They like to take care of themselves. And we did know that about 70% of our customers were busy customizing. So clearly, you know, going back to a traditional CSA was not an option for us. We asked our members, And out of about 300 members, we've got 230 responses. So that's a very high response rate from our members. We asked them how well preferences worked for filling their box. Do you think it works? Do you like it? Because one of the portals we were considering did not offer preferences, but we were currently using preferences. And maybe just to back up a second, a preference is we have a list of say 50 vegetables. The members would go in and click a little star. So each vegetable had a 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, 1-star rating. And I think it was happy faces. And then if it was, a 1, it meant they would never get it no matter what they did. And we kind of noticed that it almost felt like people were still customizing way more than I would expect. If you love this and don't like this, we'll give you the things you like more often. That makes sense, right? But we found that people were getting the things they liked all the time, whereas sometimes they like getting something different. And they weren't, the way the preference thing was working is they weren't getting the things they'd like sometimes. They were only ever getting their favorite things the same every week, and it wasn't changing. Whereas with a traditional CSA, they were getting kale 1 week, chard the next. Like we didn't have that capacity to switch things up. And people were actually customizing more because it was actually being more uniform and less variable. Back to the survey. So only 20% of people were happy with the default fill, which was huge to me. I was like, wait a minute, this was like really special and exciting. Why are there so few people? But the reality was that 75% of people were usually swapping something in and out because let's be honest, you want to cook something different this week. What do you feel like cooking? There's lots on the list, just edit away. It makes sense when I think about it, but I didn't know that. I didn't expect that at all. The second question we asked them was whether they wanted to continue having a pre-filled box, because one of the options we were looking at was going to a store and just having like an online store where they put in a custom order every week. We were nervous about that. Turned out only 10% would prefer fill a shopping cart every week. So we were like, okay, good. We're not going to go that option. That's reassuring. We're still a CSA. Excellent. 70% of them still wanted the preference-based pre-fill, even though 75% of them were still changing things up, which was interesting. It's like, okay, so you guys like the idea of the preferences, but practically it's not working. Anyways, at the end of the day, we had a budget to work with, and we just really weren't comfortable with the original portal. So we decided we were going to make the switch. Next, things that we gave up by switching. We gave up our off-farm customer support. We gave up, which turned out to not be an issue. They'd all figured out that I knew what was going on, not the off-farm customer support, and they were all emailing me anyways. So totally not an issue, even though I was scared about it. We give up preferences. So each order is not custom built. It's a default for everybody, but that doesn't seem to have been a big deal. We used to have the option to edit shares on a single page so they could see what was in their cart and add more or take out things all in one place. Right now it's in 2 places. Yeah, it's a tiny bit less slick, totally worth it for the change in price point, in my opinion. And, maybe that'll come soon. We had items that were limited got filled directly into orders. So this is something on a sort of another level, but things like cilantro, where we only had 50, and we know not everybody likes it, they would get auto-filled into shares where people loved cilantro, whereas right now people have to manually add it in if they want some. So that's a little bit more tricky, but it is what it is. Generally, we haven't found that we've had any issues when I have my 50 cilantro listed. Usually they all go anyways. So they're going in manually doing it, and it's okay. We don't have automated emails for failed payments anymore. Again, that might be something that's coming. Who knows? Next. Things we gained with Local Food Marketplace, which is our current portal. It's a third of the cost. We gained so much control, and we're totally okay with the complexity trade-off because it is more complex to set up. We gained wholesale integration. So our wholesale is pulling from the exact same inventory as our CSA, which is great because that means anything that doesn't sell through CSA automatically can be offered up to wholesale. It's easier to update the availability weekly, and it's really smooth to credit individual items. If we miss something on the pack line, I just put a credit on, it goes towards next week. It's all good. Next. My last thing, I just wanted to run through a quick week with you. Do we have time? Yeah, okay. So Thursdays, I do my estimate for a walk around. It's only about an hour. You do this no matter what type of CSA you're running. Fridays, it takes me about an hour to update the availability online. I can do it from my phone if I want to. Usually I prefer to do it on paper and sit down at my desk, but it's great to be able to do it in the field. I add new product images, build the default shares, double check the storefront, update the automatic email. So every week I have, 3 to 5 lines being like, hey, this is really exciting this week, or this is the last week for this, or whatever notes I want to give them, I can give them. And I just do a quick check for member emails. Friday, Saturday, ordering goes live. I post a newsletter, which is the same as what you would do with any other type of CSA. During the ordering period, I keep an eye on emails. Usually I check in once a day. Usually there's 1 or 2. It's really not a big deal. Mondays, it takes 15 minutes to half an hour to print a pick list and wrap up the customer support. And then on Tuesdays, print my route sheet, print my labels, process the payments, deal with any straggler emails, print the paid invoices, follow up with payments. That's it. Beyond running a traditional CSA, I'd say it's an extra 4 to 5 hours weekly. Back a second. But it's so much less customer support for registrations, holidays, payments. And in a nutshell, I would say scale is impossible without a portal. And I would never go back to not having a portal. So at the end of the day, what's holding you back? It's comfy on the couch. It's hard to change. I get it. But I look forward to hearing your questions during the period. And with a portal, hopefully you can be empowered to farm even better.
Thanks so much, Heather. This was awesome. Excited to hear all the questions in the Q&A. So drop those in the chat if you haven't already for Heather, and we'll get to them at the end. Right now we have up next Ray Strobel from Barr Farms.
Hello, I'm Ray Strobel. I'm with Barr Farms. It's me and my husband, Adam, in that picture, and our 3 kids. And then we have a farm crew, which I'll get into a little bit later. Sorry, Katie, go ahead, thanks. So we are a 7th generation family farm. The land has been in my husband's family for 7th generation, so our kids are the 8th. The whole family farm, including like dad and uncle, is 270 acres. We're in Rogelia, Kentucky. Caring for the land and the soil has always been at the forefront of our farming practices, and really like why we got into farming in the first place. So currently our vegetables are certified organic, and then we also raise beef and chicken. Our beef is 100% grass-fed, and we do pastured poultry. We used to raise hogs, and now we work with a neighbor to do that. So we do sell pork. So we have a vegetable CSA and a meat CSA separately, so people can sign up for one or the other or both. And then last year we took on shiitake mushrooms from another neighbor friend who was raising them. That's a long story, but we now raise shiitake mushrooms. So our values of just what we go back to is the land stewardship, food justice, and then financial viability and sustainability for our family, that the farm is supporting our family. So our markets, definitely the CSA is the biggest portion of our farm sales. I would say that we're probably at like 65 to 75% of our sales channels is through the CSA, and veggie definitely is the biggest part of that. So the meat is much smaller. We also do 2 farmers markets a week, on a Tuesday and on a Saturday. And our Saturday market is robust. Like we do have a lot of sales there. So that is an important market outlet for us. We do some to local restaurants. We have relationships with chefs. We have sold just a few items to Whole Foods. So we have just that small amount of the wholesale channel. And then we have another sort of wholesale channel that's called Fresh Stop Markets. That's a system that supports food justice in our area. So currently our CSA, we're at about 450 members, probably a little bit more, but we do offer small, medium, and large shares, and then weekly or every other week. And so we have more members than we deliver boxes per week. So we have about 300 boxes going out each week during the CSA season. We do offer home delivery for a fee, or they can pick up at the 2 area farmers markets, or we also have a partnership with a local natural foods grocery store. And so they can choose that grocery store as a pickup location, and that gives our members a longer time frame to be able to pick up their share. They can pick up anytime the store is open. So that's a really nice option for our members. We do have farm pickup as well, but we have like 5 people who choose that. We live over an hour from our main city center. So we really need to have those partnerships and relationships for pickup locations for members. So we've really gone towards really trying to have a lot of flexibility for our members to make it kind of customer centric, so that we do offer the 3 different sizes, the weekly or every other week, and then the fully customizable share. Okay, so why did we decide to start customizing? We did start out with a traditional CSA way back in 2007. We started with 11 members. So our first few years, like from 2007 to about 2014, we sort of grew slowly up until about 50 members, and we hovered at about 50 for a while. And yeah, it was just like a weekly share. People, I guess we did start with like paper and email and just Excel sheets to start out. We did use Member Assembler, if anybody remembers that. So we did have like an online portal pretty early in the beginning, but it was still a traditional CSA. So in 2015, we made the decision to scale up and to grow our CSA membership. So we did some like business planning, and I had started having children at that point. So we really were like, we have to figure this out so that we can continue farming. And then I also looked at our retention, which was around 47%. And that was, at that time, there was some research that showed that that was actually very slightly higher than the national average. I think the national average was around 42 or 43% at that time, but still it was a problem. And so Member Assembler started Harvey, a CSA platform. So we started, so as part of farm growth, we started it before we joined Harvey, but that was part of our growth plan, is to continue getting more and more again, customer centric. So that jump offering customizable shares, our retention jumped from 47% to 60% just in that first year. So I thought that was a pretty big jump. And at this point, we are at about 73%, which I still want to get better. I still feel like that's not really that great, but it's decent. So in this growth time too, we built a vegetable packing shed. We invested in a refrigerated box truck. We certified organic on our vegetables. Previously to that, we were talking to members and offering, we had a more direct relationship with all of our members. So in that growth period, we can't have that like very individualized relationship with each member. So we always have had a newsletter, but I also have like really stepped up on the newsletter and telling stories and giving member support around cooking, but also helping people feel connected to the farm. What else? We also joined the Kentucky Farm Share Coalition, which offers workplace pickups for members. And so that was part of our growth as well. So there were other aspects besides the customizable shares that contributed to the farm growth, but it definitely was a part of it, probably a big part of it. So getting into the details of customization, our platform currently is Harvey. And so for the member experience, the members do set their preferences when they sign up. So they can say they get these little pictures and they say, beets, I love it. And I always want it in my box whenever you have it available. Or I really don't like beets and I really never want to see them. And then they also get an email. And so obviously we don't grow beets year round. So they'll get an email that says, based on what the farm has available, here is what's going to be in your share. I actually included a picture of our meat because we do have a meat CSA also that uses the same system at this point. So they get that email and then they can click the button to say swap items. It takes them directly to their cart. And then that third picture is then they can go in and they can see how many is in their cart. So maybe they ended up having 2 sweet potatoes in their cart. It shows them that clearly. And then on the same page is other items that are available for them to swap in and out. And we can also choose if items are available to swap or if they're only available for additional purchase. So like the shiitake mushrooms, as an example, those don't go in the box. They are still part of the listing that we give, but we say that they're only available to add on as extra. So members have to pay extra to get certain items. On the farm side, one of the things that probably the thing that we love best about the Harvey system is on the farm side, we don't have to set a box in our mind. We don't have to think about what are the items that I have the most of that I know will fill all of the boxes this week, that also is a like, you know, good box, like a well-rounded box. We can say like, we have a ton of sweet potatoes. We only have, you know, 50 quarts of okra. We just like enter exactly what we have. And then the algorithm pre-fills those boxes. And so I don't know, that has been a pretty big thing for us to not have to think about what the box is going to look like. On the planning part of that, it also is easy because we've been able to like see over time what people like and what people don't like, and just adjust our crop planning to be more in line with members' tastes and preferences. Okay, so on the farm experience, we print the labels, and this is the Dymo label that Heather was referring to. On the labels, the two on the right, so it gives their name, it gives their pickup location, it has their phone number on there in case they miss, the host can call or text them to say, hey, your box is still here. And then each location has a number. And so we can enter into the system like which order we want those locations to be. So when we pack the boxes onto the truck, they're in the right order for when they get unloaded off of the truck. But so this label on the right, the Lynn Bauer, we never would have packed a CSA box that had 7 bunches of garlic scapes and 3 quarts of strawberries. And that happened in our first year. So that was like a huge, like, oh, this is really different and really great for the member. So on the left, you get a little glimpse into our pack line. We actually just expanded our pack shed, so it looks different. It will look different this year. Actually are having our first delivery today, so Adam's out doing that. But so we have, I'm not sure if you can see it that well, we have a roller table there that boxes are sitting on, and then just regular tables that the produce boxes are sitting on. So the label gets slapped onto the box, onto the side. Each person filling the boxes looks at the label and, you know, okay, 5 pounds of potatoes, puts that in. Maybe they skip the cabbage, and then the next thing they put in just according to the label. So it goes really easily. We really like the roller table because the box that you don't have to hold the boxes as you're going down, it just slides down. And then, yeah, we have one person at the end double checking. And then I'm not sure if you can see when you get to the very end, that's a roller door. And so the truck is parked right outside of that door. So then the boxes just get put directly on the truck. So that pack shed and truck scaling up has been really, really helpful for our like packing efficiency. And then the cooler is on the right there. So the, you know, everything gets harvested, washed, put into the cooler. And then on pack day, it gets taken out of the cooler right there in the pack shed and then packed up into boxes. So the pros of the customization is that members love it. And yeah, people have said, like, some of our original members who have been with us since those like first couple of years, they were like, man, I will be with you no matter what, but this customization is awesome. I love it. Please keep doing it. It is really easy on the back end. Like, we were worried that, I don't know, that it would be hard or complicated, but we found it to be maybe even easier than a traditional CSA. Again, we love that we can just input what we have. It definitely has helped with member satisfaction and retention. So higher satisfaction equals higher retention. And then also in selling new shares too, when we were scaling up, we were needing to get new members, like more members each year. So it's easy to address those hurdles that people have in their head of like, there's always, well, what if I don't like what you have? And so then you have a really great answer. Well, you can customize and you can swap in and out, and there's the preferences. So it makes it easier to sell a CSA share as well. So we do really love it. The cons, which we realized when we switched over, is that once you start, you can't go back. Like, if members get used to having a customized share, I don't know. I just don't want to, I'm not considering ever going back to a traditional CSA because we like it and customers like it. Currently our cons right now is there's a really expensive, Harvey is an expensive platform. And so honestly, like every year I think that I like do a little like, okay, what are the other platforms and should we switch? And I spend, you know, a week or two sort of looking around. And so far each year we've stuck with Harvey because we really like that. Not having to think about the box is the biggest thing. But we'll see what happens this year. So some thoughts to consider if you're thinking about customizing or going to a customizable share is just what's your why? And are there other ways to achieve that why? And so I know that there are some traditional CSAs out there who have addressed member satisfaction in other ways. And so, you know, just know that once you start, you're sort of committed to customizable. Do your research on all the options before committing to software. Just look around and see what works best for you. And yeah, it like any new thing that you do, anytime that you switch platforms, it's going to be a time investment. That's true no matter what, whether you go customizable or not customizable. But also retention is a big deal, and that's our biggest probably reason for doing customization. And I think that's it. So Barr Farms is our website. You can look at that and see how we integrate the platform. We do use Harvey. Some other platforms that I know exist for customization are Farmigo, CSAware. Did I put Local Line? I am sorry, I meant to put LFM, Local Food Marketplace. A Local Line, I'm pretty sure, does not have customizable. So I'm sorry for that typo, Stephanie, especially. And there's one called Happy CSA that one of our farms in the area uses and likes a lot. There are probably others that I'm not familiar with. I also know that there's a farm in our region who does more of a like just free choice CSA where members just like pay upfront and then they come to market and they just fill their box and it gets deducted from their value. I like more structure than that, so that would not be a good fit for me. But I know that some people who do that like how it works for them. So I look forward to questions at the end, and thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Ray. Appreciate it. And I'm sure lots of folks do have questions about software. We will drop some resources into the chat. And so just stay tuned for those, and we'll kind of include a follow-up email. The CSA Innovation Network has got kind of a robust resource list for you to check out. And we are going to hear from Local Food Marketplace next, and Stephanie Jager. Take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. Thanks, everyone. I'm Stephanie Jager. I'm Director of Sales and Customer Success at Local Food Marketplace. I've been in the CSA world in some capacity for about a decade now, actually. I've been with LFM for 2 years. Previously, I actually worked for Small Farm Central's Harvey software, so I know Ray. And then prior to that, I ran a multiple producer cooperative for 4 years, and I ran a 300-member CSA through them. And we actually use Member Assembler to run that. So kind of been in like software CSA world for, I can't believe it, like, yeah, a decade now. I'm also a CSA member at 2 local farms here in northern Wisconsin where I live. Both of them offer a version of customized shares. So I've been a member with them for about over a decade as well. So I've spent a lot of time on like all sides of the CSA topic here. All right, so enough about me, a little bit about Local Food Marketplace. This is a platform that Heather is currently using right now. So we've been around for 14 years and counting since 2009. So we support food hubs, markets, and producers. We're a small company with on-the-ground experience. My experience isn't unique here. We're a small company of 9 people. Everybody has had some kind of on-the-ground food systems experience. So we kind of provide a unique service there. For those who don't know, we provide sales and e-commerce solutions that cover both the customer, producer, and admin-facing tools. We work with multiple producer organizations such as co-ops, food hubs, et cetera, but we also work with a lot of single producer farms as well, like Heather. All of our customers typically run more than one sales channel. Heather talked about that a little bit earlier about being able to pull in wholesale in addition. So we support a wide range of programs. So most of our customers are running, CSA, whether that's traditional or customized. They've got storefront, just like a la carte ordering, wholesale, institutional sales, you name it, we've seen it. And most of them are doing multiple things at one time. All right, so a little bit, there's a lot of text here. Sorry, I'll talk everybody through it. So a little bit about customized shares with Local Food Marketplace. So we support a variety of different customizable share options. No CSA farm is alike, so our software definitely takes that into account. We don't force a particular model. We provide different tools to run, whatever type of model makes sense for your business. So the first one would be a buy down. I think somebody mentioned that earlier. Or a customer might just like pay a certain amount of money, prepays, it's kind of a credit on their account and they can order what they want and it just kind of gets subtracted from that amount that they paid. You can run that on LFM. You can do farmer's choice with add-on items. So in this case, the share itself isn't customizable, but customers can add additional items to their share for an additional cost. The next version, this is the first version that Heather used, and then with all of her feedback, we have the fourth version just for her. But the third version I consider like a flexible version. So the share has a set price and a set number of products within the share. And then the farmer can create a designated substitutions list. So the price doesn't change when items are substituted. You can kind of think of it as an in-person swap box if you're doing those. So customers can still add additional items to the storefront for an additional cost, but they're kind of set with their like share items. And then the last option is fully customizable. So farmer sets a base box. At that point, the customer can do what they want. They can increase the quantity or delete those items, and then they can just go on the storefront and add or change out whatever they want from what's available. And then the final price is determined by what's in the box at the end of that customization period. Okay. All right, so that's kind of like the models. From here, there's other features and options that are also important to consider when you're looking at software, whether it's LFM or whether you're looking at other ones. Year-round and seasonal. So you'll want to make sure, depending on what your model is, we support both perpetual or year-round as well as seasonal share models. And a lot of our customers do both at the same time. So you're not locked into like having to choose one or the other. Custom frequencies. So you can set up weekly, biweekly, monthly, and then you could also do like a custom frequency as well. You could also decide if you want to prorate your shares. So if you're doing like a pay in full for a seasonal and you are wanting to take signups throughout the season, as opposed to shutting it down, the system will automatically prorate that price for your customers. So you're not having to like manage that, which is kind of a nightmare because I remember having to do that manually before software. And then flexible payment options. You can set up, we've got 3 different options at LFM. Farms can choose any or all of these. So we're not forcing you into any particular payment option. You can offer like that single payment, pay in full. That obviously works best for a seasonal versus year round. You can set up to 2 to 4 payments scheduled throughout a season, and you can designate the amount and the due dates for those. And you can do that by subscription. So you can, kind of customize what that looks like. And then of course the pay as you go, which is basically just pay as you go. No upfront to the farmer, customer just puts a credit card on file and then you're just charging that customer for what they're purchasing that week. And then of course the ability to accept different payment options, credit cards, checks, cash, etc. Okay. Okay, so we've got that now. It's important to have some flexibility for your customers. Obviously the product part is like the most important part, but there's other things too. So you can customize the model to allow your customers to offer the option to hold or skip their share that week. You'll have the ability to offer customers the option to cancel if they forgot to hold or skip that week, so they could just cancel out the order that week. You can also have the ability to allow customers to cancel the entire subscription. Now, in this case, it's a request to cancel, and you can elect to have that available to them or not. And then you can also have the ability to allow them to change a pickup location. So again, this is flexibility for the farm. You can decide which options to enable for your customers. So they're all optional. Okay, so we talked a little bit about how they work, just as far as like the setup goes. So let's kind of dive into a little bit about creating the boxes. So Heather showed a little bit of screenshots as well. So what we're looking at right now is the farmer side. So this is admin, it's not customer facing. This is the subscription builder screenshot. So you'll have full control over what goes into each base box, and you can create a base box for each share type. So you can see here a little bit, I know it's probably small, but you can see like the subscription name. Yeah, thank you, Katie. Spring CSA share. So you can select the share, and then below that, there's that little blue plus button, and then your little product mode will pop up, and you can select which products you want to build into that box. If you're a multiple producer organization, or you're like a single producer that's maybe just offering a few things from some other producers, you can build this by producer. So you can see on the left there, it'll have the producer name. So you're pulling in products from individual producers. So it does support either single producer or multiple producer as you're building this out. Okay, so a little bit on the customer side, once you've done that, you'll create the orders, and then customers are going to be able to see the individual products in their cart. And if you're doing the model that Heather's doing, that she talked about, at that point, the customers can delete that item. You can see a little trash can next to the product there in the shopping cart. They can increase the quantity using that little pencil button, or they can just click continue shopping, go on the storefront, and they can see all of the products that you have available, and they can add additional or different products to their cart. At that point, they don't need to save or reconfirm. Everything's in real time. It's real-time inventory. It's real-time changes on the storefront. I know a common question that I get is, well, what if customers remove too many items? You can set up a minimum order requirement so they can't drop below a certain value. So, okay. And then the other piece of it is the built-in communications. Most platforms are going to have this, or they should, but like a what's in the box email. So, you don't have to, I talked to so many farmers who are like manually doing this in MailChimp or Squarespace, where they're like getting all their product photos and like creating the emails. This will do it for you. There's placeholders in the system. There's emails that you can create. You can just kind of create a template. It's going to pull in all of these products that you built into that share. You can add a custom message every week if you want, or not. You can just kind of set a template and have it get sent out. It'll have a link back to the storefront, so then it'll direct your customer to easily customize there. In addition to that part, there's also automated pickup and delivery reminder emails that you can utilize as well. All right. Of course, common question. Okay, I need pick and pack lists and customer labels and drop sheets. Both Ray and Heather were talking about those. It's like the most important question, right? Like how to pack the shares and get all the information you need out of the system. So yeah, all items that are sold are going to appear on a pick list. So if you're a multiple producer organization, every producer that you're working with that sold product can get their own pick list automatically sent to them. Or if you're a single producer, you'll just use your pick list in the system. From there, you can generate a packing list, and you can also generate a customer label. We saw Heather's labels earlier. This is just a screenshot from my demo site, so you see our logo there. But there's a packing list that has a little bit more information for your packers. Like you can set like product storage types, and you can have like the producer name of the product, a lot more information. So a lot of our customers like to pack from that and then generate these labels to put on the customer box or bag. And then we also have a subscriber by location report. So that's like we call them a drop sheet when I ran the CSA. So you can just like print a report of everybody, your customers by location and what they're getting, and like leave that with the drop site host. Okay, now you can go, Katie. All right, this is one of my favorite tools, just like bulk actions. I wish I would have had this when I ran a CSA way back in the day. Bulk tools to manage uncertainty of local food, right? Like it happens. Like my favorite feature of this is the ability to bulk credit products back to a customer. I think Heather talked about this earlier, but basically you can get a list of like maybe your carrots, you put carrots in the CSA, people ordered them, and then, the rabbit ate them, right? So you're like, you need to get a list of everybody that purchased those carrots so you can just easily credit them back. You can do that in LFM, pull up a list, click a button, it'll remove it from their invoice, the packing list, and the label. Other bulk actions, of course, that I have here, you could bulk change locations or the distribution day. You can bulk add credits or promo codes, and then you can also bulk email customers. My example of being in Northern Wisconsin running a CSA is the snow, made us late for a delivery. So in LFM, you can go to your orders, filter by location, and then send everybody an email with like a custom note just to let them know you're running late. So those are some nice tools that I know folks like. Okay, I got through it, I think, without too much time. So yeah, I know Sadie will throw the resources in here, but we've got a couple blog posts. The Creating Customized CSAs with Fiddlehead Farm features Heather here. So you can read a little bit more about her story. And then Dreaming Out Loud is a food hub that we work with near DC. And they added like 1,000 new members when they switched to LFM to offer customized shares. So that's a nice, that's a big number. So there's a good blog post in there, and then just a little video of our subscription builder walkthrough. So that's me. And I'm also like this was like a lot kind of crammed into 10 minutes. So I'm, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to do like free consultations, demos, walkthroughs in more detail for your specific use. So yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. Thanks so much. We are going to kick it over to Q&A. So if you haven't dropped your question into the chat, please do so. And we will also encourage folks to turn their video on. We'd love to see your faces if you'd like. We're just going to I'm going to cut the slides here and we'll bring those back up at the top of the 5 minutes till the end of our program. And really appreciate Stephanie kind of adding in a lot of the things that you get when you go to that software, not only the customized share, but the skipping a week, adding credit, pausing, all of those are really awesome benefits. So thanks for emphasizing that. I want to, the chat is very robust. I feel like I need a few minutes to kind of come through. So I was gonna ask Ray and Heather, I don't think you touched on it yet, but just to kind of, Stephanie mentioned so many different options of payment plans and things like that. Could you guys emphasize what your payment is? I know Heather, you mentioned pay as you go, but like, you know, do people, if they want to pay more than that, can they pay extra? So I kick it to Heather and then Ray, just to kind of mention a little bit with the customizable, how flexible are the payments? And we can go from there and I'll comb through the chat.
So for us, pay as you go came along because it is really annoying to have to figure out when somebody's paid ahead for the season, they skipped this week and they're owed this many vegetables. And sometimes they hadn't used up all their shares by the end of the season. So it's like, I'm trying to carry it over their credit to the next season. And it just got really complicated to manage. And we realized that as a growing farm, actually, like we're paying bills all year. Yeah, there's the concept that like, you know, you pay a lot of bills in the spring, which is true, but it wasn't as true as our CSA fluctuations in paying everything up front were way more than our actual cash flow fluctuated for expenses. So, you know, we had this idea that we needed all the money up front. It's like, well, actually, no, we need to know the money's coming. We need that more. So by switching to pay as you go, we were able to pay our bills as they came in pretty much year round, which is so much better than carrying a ridiculous overdraft.
Mm-hmm. And just for reference, Heather, would you mind, you mentioned kind of like just quick references, you've got 2 sizes in the summer and 1 size in the winter, like prices for those, just to give people some numbers about.
Yeah, so our small shares are $25 a week in the summer, or $25 a week every other week in the spring, or $50 a month in the winter. So we try to keep it a similar amount per month, regardless of the season. And in the summertime, in the wintertime, no, the regular size shares, which are slightly larger, are $35 a week in the summer, or every other week in the spring, and $80 in the winter.
Okay, no, that's super helpful. And then Ray, just quickly, would you mind mentioning kind of how folks can pay with your site?
Yeah, so the way that we're set up, people can either choose the like Harvey payment plan. There's like a payment plan set up, which is 25% of their total cost the day that they sign up, the next 25% on the first day of deliveries, and then the rest of the 50% gets divided among all of their shares, all of their deliveries. So if they're we do a 24-week season. So if they're every other week, that gets divided among 11 deliveries. So then each time they get a delivery, they'll get charged like half the value of what they're getting. So I would say that the majority of people do that payment plan. They also do have the option to pay in full, or they also have the option to pay the 25% and then to just go in on their own and make a payment at any point. So we do have some people doing that. They'll pay the 25% to reserve their spot, and then they'll go in once or twice before the season starts to just pay off their balance. Harvey does have an option to do a pay as you go, and we just haven't we haven't done that yet. We haven't had issues with what Heather was talking about, like of having an amount that carries over to the next season. If it's kind of like they get their share value each time and it doesn't carry over. This wasn't your question, but I'm going to say we did start a early bird renewal a few years ago, where instead of waiting until January 1st to do our like season signups, we do it at the very end of the CSA season. So like we go through October and we'll do it basically like right as the CSA is ending. We'll say we're signing up early bird special for next year, and we don't offer a discount, but I try to put together some sort of like gift, which is usually a something that I can email to them, because I don't want to have to worry about logistics of physically getting things to people. But I would say that that also has helped with retention, is doing the signups early, because people really just aren't thinking about vegetables in January. And so it's nice to go off the momentum. And also the fall vegetables, like even though people are sort of like maybe a little bit ready for a break, also fall vegetables are so amazing. And they're like, yes, I want to do it. So did I answer your question, Katie?
No, you did. Quick reference. You mentioned you have 3 sizes in the summer. Could you get a rundown of those prices for your veggies just
I
to
can
compare?
try. You might have to help me. I can't keep numbers in my head for some reason. So our small is 22 a week. Our regular is 28 a week. And then our abundant is, I think, 36 a week, or 36 per delivery.
Yeah. So a little bit of a range just to give, that's awesome. Thanks, Ray. And I have some questions coming in through the chat. I know we had a lot submitted through the sign up. So thank you guys if you submitted a question when you registered. But just want to encourage, would anyone like to maybe raise your hand? You can come off mute, you can ask a question directly to Ray, Stephanie, or Heather, and feel free just to unmute, or Heather, yeah.
Just a quick follow up on what Ray was saying. One of the other things that's very different than between us is that we're year round. You can subscribe anytime. There's no registration period. We're never sold out, fingers crossed. And for us, that ability for members to join in anytime, for members to go on holiday anytime throughout the year, they can just put whatever dates in the system. So we did have some members that are still what you would consider seasonal. And I've just trained them. It's like, if you have your own garden, when your garden starts producing, put on a hold and put the end date to be in September when your garden stops. And then we won't fill any boxes for you in that time window. But it's much more flexible for having people concerned about when they're getting vegetables and when they're not.
No, that's a really good point, Heather. Is it awesome flexibility? Does anyone have a question? Do you want to come off mute to ask anything, or I can, we've got lots of questions that were submitted as well.
I'll ask a question. I think sometimes launching into a new platform is frightening, a little scary. We know there's a lot of work to be done, you know, in the winter season to load onto a new platform. And I'll say, as a consumer, a concern is the platform we are choosing to go with going to be there in 5 years? We all know that there are hiccups that they just happen. And sometimes businesses, platforms close down. So that's a lot of work to put into a platform that maybe now you need to choose another one. I was kind of hoping, and Harvey and Local Food Marketplace do appear to be the top levels here. How long have they been in business, and how many customers do they now have to, you know, holding them up and pushing them forward?
Okay, yeah, Catherine, good question. I'm going to pass it to Stephanie.
Yeah, I can talk specifically about Local Food Marketplace, of course. We've been here since 2009, so about 14 years. We have over 300 food hubs and single producers licensing our software, which equates to about 17,000 individual producers interacting with all of them on a regular basis. We are not venture capitalist backed. We are bootstrapped. We, we answer to our customers. We don't answer to like shareholder boards or anything like that. So, in that sense, it's, our development roadmap is directly influenced by what our customers are asking, and Heather can definitely attest to that. We've built out features specifically that she asked for. We work with our customers one-on-one because we want it to make sense for them. Local food changes, things change pretty quickly. So we're here to support that in whatever way that looks like. I hope that answered it, Catherine, and nice to see you.
Yeah. And I can't speak to Harvey. I know Harvey's been around a long time. I think maybe the best thing, they've been around a long time. They're well trusted. I know a lot of the Kentucky farms do use Harvey as well. And they've existed probably for more than a decade, but a great frame of reference if you're a farm thinking about offering software. I might ask you to drop in like the CSA Innovations like resource list of all the software that will let you know if it's customizable or not, but those are all kind of very trusted softwares that can kind of expand upon the two that we've covered in the webinar today. And I would just say in terms of from the customer side, that a lot of the softwares are similar. I mean, they're meant to be very user friendly. And so I feel like once you are familiar with one, it's easy to become familiar with a different one. And that transition isn't too hard. And maybe Heather can speak to that because she did switch softwares. Did any customers really struggle, or what was the pain points with switching, right?
I mean, for me, it was more a relief because I could appreciate all the extra features and all the extra control that the new system had. It was also a relief because it felt like the platform I was on was sinking, customer service was going down the drain. There were features that weren't being supported and I was really scared. And when we were looking for a new portal, we wanted to make sure that there was a group out there that was like a small, close-knit team of tech support that could handle the workload. So from the perspective of already having been in a system, the way LFM was set up just felt like it made sense, and they'd been around a lot longer, and they felt like they were a much more solid core team that could scale without being an issue. The platform we were on during the pandemic had scaling issues because there were a lot more people going to it, and we saw serious issues. So because the platform we're with now, all they do is provide the platform, and I'm the only person that contacts them for tech support. Like my customers don't have any contact with them at all. It helps keep the system much more stable, I think. And it just feels like it's a much more straightforward, bootstrapping, Stephanie mentioned, I think, but I'm like, yeah, like we're all farmers, we're all working on a tight budget, we're all trying to make it work. Simple is beautiful. And yeah, that's part of how we end up with LFM.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather. And that leads me kind of, does anyone else have other like software questions about we might not be able to answer all of those, but just CD did drop those resources in, check those out. I know, and Stephanie also answered about route directing. I don't know if there's anything else we need to follow up about that, but if you have questions, we can address those in the chat. I think maybe another question that came through the registrations a lot was just about the process for packing the shares and, the best practices for, how much time it takes and, what to do. And I feel like our, both farmers really covered that a little bit. Does anyone have any questions related to share packing? I have my own questions, but I just wanted to, yeah, Frederick.
Unmute. So yeah, thank all of you for a really inspiring conversation. I have a farm in Denmark, Europe, so I'm evening for me now. But we're thinking about going into customization through a platform. We have it now, they come to the farm and customize. So I have two questions. First is, because we're scared of packing boxes. So do you have time estimates? Heather, you had a time estimate. So, but you take it down to per person or also from you, Ray, it would be really interesting to hear how much time is actually used on packing customized boxes. Because what we are looking into for next year is actually having, because now we have 200 families coming and picking up at the farm and have a farm style.
Yeah, market style. We call it market style.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So what we are looking into is next year expand to the next city and then have a platform that where they can order, but then we will just ship ready harvest in the boxes, one big box of salad, one big boxes of everything, and then they will pick themselves. So we don't pack boxes, they still customized what they ordered. And if there's anybody who knows if there's a software that make that possible? So 2 questions. First, time consumption, and second, if it's possible to customize, but not into boxes, but they pick themselves up.
Yeah.
I can
Ray, did you have a
address that.
clarifying question?
No, I can address that. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So just with a few experiences that I think will address your question. So we have 2 deliveries a week, so we pack twice a week, and I would say that each like pack line takes like in total maybe 2 to 3 hours, and that's not including the time like spent like at the, it takes maybe 15 minutes to like roll up the labels, so like Brennan just like roll them up, maybe 10 minutes.
And how many are you?
So we end up having, so we have, in terms of our farm labor, we started with like paid apprenticeships where we would have like, it would be a new group of people each year. And then in the scaling up process, we ended up going with H2A labor. So people who come in seasonally for the season. So for us, like that everybody goes to work on packing boxes at the same time. So we have some people in the pack shed as their job, and then people who are harvesting as their job. But then when it's packing boxes time, it's like all hands on deck, but it goes pretty quickly. I mean, so quickly that I'll just say a little aside, like we have 3 young kids. And so sometimes I'm not part of packing boxes and I'm like, I'm going to take the kids over and we're going to pack together. And sometimes I miss it because I just don't get there in time. So I would say like 2 to 3 hours total, maybe even less than that on the packing, probably 1 to 2 hours packing. We did try a market style pickup in a couple of different ways. And one of the ways that we offered market style was before we did the customizable share, when we still had a traditional share. And then we had just like a swap table. So it was like, here's what's in your share. You take one thing from each box. And then if you don't want something, you don't have to take it. Or you can take it and put it on the swap table. And then people would like swap out. And that was a way that we were managing our traditional share for a while. And that worked okay. And so then Harvey does offer it's called a market style pickup, where there's just like a list. And so the customer comes and gets their own list of what they put in their box. So for us, we get like, okay, you have to pack, I don't know, 100 bunches of carrots into this box and 50 bunches of beets, and like a different style of pack list, I guess. And so we would pack those different quantities of all the vegetables that we had, and then members would have their own list and take it into their own bags. So we did that for a couple of years, and then we switched to packing the individualized boxes at the markets during COVID. And we haven't gone back from that because we actually liked it a lot better. And that was surprising to us, but I think the customers liked it better, and we liked it better. It was actually less time consuming overall. And especially when you think about like both of our markets are robust markets for us, where we really need to be focused on selling to people coming up to buy things. And so we were able to it was confusing for members. They were like, now where is my ticket and what do I get? And we were able to have more authentic or more just like actual conversations with CSA members versus answering confused logistical questions on how to put things in their bag. So it felt like it saved time at market and improved the customer relationship, both for CSA customers and also for market customers. So that was our experience. I know other people might have others, but we already were packing traditional CSA boxes before. And so I would say that it has not felt like a significant increase in time to pass, really not an increase at all to pass customizable, pack customizable boxes.
Yeah. Ray, thanks
Just
for that.
And clarifying
go ahead.
question. How many people are in your crew?
We
You said
have
all hands on deck, but how many hands is that?
7.
Okay, 7 people, 2 hours. To
Yeah.
pack 200
Yeah.
boxes, or
Yep.
yeah. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thanks, Frederick. Heather, do you want to speak to that?
I'll just add in quickly, like we love the farmer's market pickup as being able to grab somebody's bag and say, here you go. because as Ray mentioned, like you're constantly doing a million other things, and it's just simpler to not have to worry about explaining the logistics. But we also find that having the CSA pickup at our market helps improve the quantity of produce we can move, because it's quick grab and bag go, and customers love it. And I get to recognize them by name and be like, oh, hey, so-and-so, because I'm looking at their bag and label every week, right? So you learn their names so much more quickly and easily that way too. And one of the big things I think for us was like, you know, if people can pick out their own, they can pick a bigger one or a smaller one. It's a good idea, but as we've grown, we've just got weight targets for everything. So almost everything has a certain weight target, and there shouldn't be too much variability between you picking up this one or that one, because everybody deserves to get the same thing. So we've really strived to make our pack sizes more uniform over the years, and that helps address the conceptual idea of like somebody wanting a bigger one of this and a smaller one of that. And it's like, no, they're all the same. So people know what they're getting.
And Frederick, definitely feel free if you have a follow-up question, you can come off mute or drop it into the chat. I think I might want to encourage you to explore both, like in terms of like you could potentially like still offer your market style pickup on the farm. You might not be wanting to change that, but we've heard from members that have a lot of value if they are able to pick up on the farm and you've got a lot of people coming, that there's maybe no need to change that setup if it works for you and saves you time, but maybe packing boxes to your site that's farther away, that's like a quick grab and go. We do have farms that kind of alternate and offer both styles depending on the pickup. And so it doesn't have to be like all or nothing, like you pack every box or it's only market style. And so just wanted to like throw that out there too from the farms that I know. Yeah, and we had a question for you, Ray, about just when you offer that combined meat and veg, and we might need to clarify like they're different shares, how does the packing of the meat shares and delivery process for that vary from the veg? Do you do those share packing simultaneously, and what's different if you're packing a meat CSA share?
Yeah, good question. So up until this point, they're separate. So you can't add meat into your veggies and you can't add veggies into your meat. And partly that has been our logistics. We have been toying with thinking about changing that, but I can't speak to that because we haven't done it yet. So it's separate. So on the meat, it's a similar process that the members get an email, they can switch out, and then we get the, it's called the harvest list, and then the individual box labels. And so we actually have found that we use the harvest list to bring all of the meat items out of the freezer first and lay them out, and then use the labels in a similar way to say, it's not exactly a line the way that the veggies are. It's more the box is central and the meat has been like in a U shape around the central box. And then there's one person like calling out the meat and somebody else getting the like item and the size of the meat and putting it in the box. So I will say that the system works better for veggies than meats because of the variability of pricing on different meat items. It has worked up to it's worked, but we're sort of looking to tweak that system too.
And then just, I think it answers most, just a follow-up question because I missed it in the original, was just around logistics, since it's like frozen meat typically, like what's the packing materials you might use, or like how are you making sure the boxes stay cold or like frozen for delivery and things like that for the meat shares?
Yeah, we have an insulated box. So it has like, it's a box with styrofoam in it. And so it gets packed into this like styrofoam insulated box, and then it gets put on a refrigerated truck. So we haven't had any issues with thawing on that. At some of the natural food grocer partners that we have, we actually pack those into bags and put them in coolers on the refrigerated truck, and then those go into their freezer when it gets there. So and that way it stays, we don't have any issues if people are going to take a longer time picking up. Mm-hmm. That's also another reason that we haven't packed meat into the veggie boxes, is because we haven't figured out that piece.
Absolutely. And you have both indoor, like kind of air conditioned pickups and not air conditioned, like for meat shares, they could be in both environments and still be okay. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Awesome. Great question. Just cruising through. Does anyone have a question that wants to come off mute and ask? Got a few more things that got submitted through the chat, but just want to prioritize the folks that are here on the call. Awesome. Well, we had a lot of questions around pricing, around the share packing logistics. There was a little bit of like crop planning that came up, so I might just pass that to Heather and kind of speak to if anyone's concerned about offering customizable shares and like how to crop plan. What would you say, Heather?
We really like having a system because we have so much better information about what's actually going out the door. So by having a customized CSA, you know how much you've sold of all the different things, whether it's the pack units or the total dollars sold. And you can use that towards planning the next year. So you can really adjust and tweak year to year as to what's actually moving. The reality is that you are always going to plan based on what some ideal is. And then it's going to rain, it's going to not rain, it's going to hail. It's like life happens. Nothing grows the exact same schedule. It's never going to be perfect. So you plan just like you would for anything else. And then when it comes to the week that you're delivering, you just list what's actually available. And it works.
Always good. Ray, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a whole lot to add there. I think, like I mentioned before, it's one of the things that we like the most about it is that we don't, it actually takes it takes some stress off of the, like, are we going to have enough to fill up the boxes, enough of every single item to fill all of the boxes. And so, yeah, to be able to just like put in what we have. And then also I find that we definitely do sell more because people do end up adding more in. There's a lot of people who will add extras. And then we have the opportunity, like the shiitake mushroom opportunity became available. And so we were able to add that as an additional item that people could add on. And so that also is like supporting our neighbor and farmer friend who are getting a start and increasing our sales. And so that has been, and then customers are happy because they're like, ooh, gourmet shiitake mushrooms, this is great. We do have the other market outlets, so sometimes we can push it towards those, but I would say that we have less waste now than we did with the traditional CSA.
That's awesome. It's good to know. And you kind of mentioned the successes you had with a la carte options, like you can add on mushrooms, add on maybe like hot sauces, other things. And do you feel like that customers say that they like that option, they are routinely buying those products, or is it kind of maybe just a nice thing to have? Like, how would you say like that's framing out your CSA or improving customer satisfaction?
I think anytime that you offer the extra products, that's like people feel happy about that because they're like, they just get excited about those new things that are coming through. And yeah.
I guess just to say people are choosing those items, like you're moving some products through those extra a la carte items, right?
Yes. And I would say that like not everybody chooses those, but for the people who do, they really like it.
Awesome. And Sadie, let me know if I missed anything in the chat. I had maybe one more question and then just want to be mindful of time. We've got some follow-up slides here. And we will be sharing out this recording. If you joined us late or need to hop off now, we'll share that out with everybody. Maybe just the last question, I can kick it to Stephanie a little bit in terms of just like when farmers are asking you about transitioning to customizable CSA and they're trying to figure out maybe the values and credits and pricing, do you guys have any suggestions for them about how to like price the share? Do farmers charge more for customizable CSA than they do traditional? Have you seen any variations in pricing between the two?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. We won't necessarily advise on like what they should price it on, but we have, definitely depends on where you are, but we have tools in place to manage that. I had mentioned earlier, you can set up different sales channels, but you can also just set up different price levels. So you could set like a product price in the system, and then you could have a percentage markup based on the customer type that's purchasing it. And so you can adjust that, and you can also just go into individual products and adjust a margin in there too. So there's just some tools on the back end that can help you manage, pricing based on CSA customer versus a different type of customer.
Mm-hmm. And just to kind of follow up, to give you guys an example, and I'll make sure I'm saying this right with Stephanie, like, if you have a really popular item you're worried about with customizable that people will like take too much of that item, obviously you can set the quantity, or you can make sure people can only get one, but you might also like value that item way up. And so it's going to be more credits, like, or Stephanie, right?
You could increase the margin on an individual selling unit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So good to know. And then I don't know if we touched on this, but just like when you can pause your share or cancel it, you carry over some credit. And so all farms kind of handle that credit carryover a little differently. I don't know if anyone, Ray, Stephanie, Heather, has any best practices for like what you'd recommend starting out with. I do know that there's always concern, like you don't want people to cancel like every share and then have this massive credit at the end of the season. Any top tips there?
Pay as you go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was to say it'll depend on the payment option that you're offering.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, if it's pay as you go, it's pretty straightforward. If if they've done a down payment of any type, then we leave it up to the farm to kind of handle how they want to handle that. Like, do they want to let everybody know they need to use that credit by the end of the year? Are they going to roll it over? Is it going to be available to use in the storefront? All those tools exist in LFM. It's just a matter of what the farm wants to offer.
And Harvey, people can pause their box and then reschedule it at a later time. So sometimes we'll end up having people get like two boxes towards the end of the season. But it's a kind of use it or lose it. If they, pause a share and don't reschedule it, then we're clear up front. They're not going to get a refund for that.
Yeah. And I think Harvey does this and other farm softwares do, like you can only pause like maybe 3 or 4 times a season, or you have so much credit. And so it's just something to think about when you're doing customizable too. But I'm going to just to pull up the slides again, just to kind of do a recap. I know Sadie has a poll, so want to launch that. I know we're while you guys are still here, but just kind of, if you can answer that on your screen and let us know how you'd rate this Ideas Lab, we'd really appreciate it. That in the moment feedback is really valuable. So thanks for filling out that poll that's popped up on your screen. I'll give folks a little bit more time and just mention these reference materials. We'll send everything in a follow-up email, the slides, the recording. It'll also be on the CSA Innovation Network's website. And then on deck, and we can go ahead, I think, and we're at 82% for the poll. So maybe let me know if you want to wrap that up. We appreciate it. That feedback's really important. And then just stay tuned for other Ideas Labs. We have a farm dinners and fundraisers this July. We have a sliding scale payments in CSA in September, and a farmer-led food access initiative in October, as some other Ideas Labs coming up in webinars. And just thanks for filling out that Zoom poll. And hopefully we'll see you at another Ideas Lab or another CSA Innovation Network event soon.